Welcome to our latest update on the ongoing war in Ukraine from the War Insider. The 354th day of the war has begun. The main event of the morning of February 12th is that the Russians have already started their announced offensive and are preparing for a new one in the spring. Russia has started using naval drones. Britain may transfer Harpoon anti-ship missiles to Ukraine. We'll start as usual with a military map of the battles. Russian losses for the day amount to 900 people. On the border with Belarus, no changes. About 5,000 Russian soldiers are in Belarus. However, this is not enough for an offensive. Russian and Belarusian forces are conducting joint exercises. On the Svatovo sector, positional battles continue. No changes on the map. On the Bakhmut sector, the Russians are concentrating their efforts in the northern part of Bakhmut. New reserves are being pulled in an attempt to increase the intensity of the fighting and succeed. The Russians have taken Chervona Hora and are intensifying pressure on the road and Proskovivka. All attacks in the area of the road to Konstantinovka have been repelled. The situation in the city is stable and heavy, but there have been no significant changes. Avdiivka section unchanged on the map. The enemy is pulling reserves with the prospect of renewing the attack on Navalskoye and Vuhledar. According to Oryx analysts, during the unsuccessful assaults on Vuhledar and Avdiivka, the occupiers lost 103 units of equipment over 3 days, including 36 tanks. According to Oryx information, Ukraine lost 20 units of equipment over the same period, including 2 tanks. Thus, the ratio of losses as of the evening of February 10th was approximately 5:1. The overall ratio of equipment losses by Russia and Ukraine, according to Oryx, is 9,189 and 2,941, or 3.12 to 1. It has also become known that on the night of February 2nd to 3, the commander of the 14th Separate Brigade of the Special Forces of the Armed Forces, Colonel Sergei Yurevich Polyakov, died in the Vuhledar direction. Over the past day, the Russian Federation has carried out 12 missile strikes, 3 of which were against the civilian infrastructure of Kharkiv, and 32 airstrikes, 6 of which were using the Shahed 136 UAV. 4 of them were shot down. The enemy also carried out more than 90 shelling from multiple rocket launchers. The air forces of the defense forces carried out 19 strikes on areas of enemy concentration over the past day, and 2 strikes on anti-aircraft and rocket positions. Russians have already started their offensive, said Secretary of the Security Council of Ukraine Danilov. However, according to him, the Russians have big problems with a major offensive. Danilov noted that the Russians are simply not talking about starting the offensive, but Ukrainian troops are heavily repulsing it. The offensive they planned is already gradually underway, but it is not the offensive they counted on, added the Secretary of the Security Council. Russia is facing a choice: to continue to exhaust its forces, to divert goals, or to carry out further mobilization. This conclusion is made by British intelligence, based on the fact that in the Ukrainian Volunteer Corps Wagner they stopped recruiting prisoners. The reasons for this may be the following. News of the harsh realities of the Wagner service in Ukraine leaked to the prisoners and reduced the number of those who wanted to join the UVC. Direct competition between the Russian Ministry of Defense and Wagner. Regular Russian armed forces have probably now also used the overwhelming majority of reservists called up for partial mobilization. The Commander-in-Chief of the Ukrainian Armed Forces, Valery Zaluzhny, in a conversation with his American colleague Mark Milley, confirmed Russia's use of sea drones. He expressed concern about Russia's use of surface drones, which pose a threat to civilian navigation in the Black Sea. It should be noted that a video recently emerged showing a bridge being struck by a Russian sea drone in Zatoka, Odessa Oblast. Due to the intensity of the fighting, Ukraine's ammunition supplies are almost at zero, according to Igor Javkva, deputy head of the Ukrainian presidential administration. We desperately need weapons, ammunition, artillery, battle tanks, armored vehicles, and fighters. Fighters are also needed to intercept ballistic missiles, which Ukraine is currently unable to shoot down, he noted in a comment to Bloomberg. At the same time, Canadian intelligence believes that Russia has faced a serious shortage of ammunition during the war against Ukraine. Due to this, the Russian Federation was forced to turn to its few overseas partners to maintain supplies of several types of ammunition. But even here, difficulties are probably likely. The Pentagon stated that Russia could have lost half of its tanks in the war against Ukraine. However, the enemy's main resource remains the manpower. Russia is preparing a new attack on Ukraine in the spring, the White House reported. The Russian Federation uses the winter months to replenish its supplies, personnel, provisions, and rearm its forces before the spring offensive, said John Kirby, the coordinator for strategic communications at the U.S. National Security Council. Against this background, the U.S. and its NATO allies have increased military supplies to Ukraine. Kirby also said that any NATO member state could transfer fighter jets to Ukraine. This is at the discretion of the states that may have a desire to provide the aircraft. These are sovereign decisions. If a NATO country or even a non-NATO country wants to provide Ukraine with weapons such as fighter jets, this is also a sovereign decision. Britain may transfer Harpoon anti-ship missiles with a range of 240 km and Storm Shadow air-to-ground missiles with a range of up to 400 km to Ukraine, according to The Times. The publication notes that this weaponry will allow for attacking occupiers in Crimea. Previously, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky noted that the longer-range Western weaponry will allow the Ukrainian military to attack targets deep inside occupied territories. It is currently unknown when and how many long-range missiles Britain will send to Ukraine. USAID will allocate $60 million to enhance Ukraine's cybersecurity, according to Minister of Digital Technologies Fedorov. These funds will help the Ukrainian government strengthen protection of critical infrastructure from cyber attacks and increase current initiatives in digital transformation. This is all the news for today. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button if you enjoyed the video. We'll be back with more updates and information tomorrow. Thanks for watching.